Whether it's on Sunday, right before church, or Monday on the way to school, or Saturday, or no matter what time of the day it is, rules are rules. You never negotiate. Okay? Point number, whatever I'm on. Whatever is good for the children is good for the adults. Okay, Mom and Dad? So don't make a rule for your children unless you're going to follow the rules.
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
Alright,
Alright, when the kids were younger, we made a rule. You know, if you don't come to the table when Mommy calls, you don't get fed. Okay, what about Dad? Dad doesn't come to the table when Mom calls, does that mean he doesn't get fed? You see what I mean?
Your children will be the first ones to point it out. How
will.
come we have these rules and you guys don't? They will notice.
Oh, they're good. Your children are smarter than you are. Okay?
Yeah.
So here are four things that start with the word respect, okay, that will help us just sort of summarize this, okay? So number one, respect the rules you make. Respect the rules you make. So if you make the rule, you need to respect it first, okay? And everything starts at the head. So the father's the head, he needs to respect the rule more than anybody else. Then the mom needs to respect the rule, and then the oldest child all the way down to the youngest child, okay? So Mom, obviously, if your husband is hiding in his cave, does not want to participate, you're stuck. You are in the worst position possible as a mom, okay? You have God on your side, God will give you wisdom. I'm just saying, it's not easy for you, okay? This is why in Psalms 119, I forget which verse it is, but it says that God exalted His word even above His name, which means that even God Himself has submitted Himself to the word that He gave to man. That's amazing, because God can do anything. But He shows us one of the most important things about rules. Whoever makes the rule has to submit himself to the rule. Okay? Just because you make the rule doesn't mean you are above the rule. Okay? It means you have the job of showing submission to the rule. Okay?
I know a family that made a rule. No gros mots. No profanity, no vulgar words. And to enforce the rules, they set up a jar, and any time one of the children or one of the adults said a bad word, he had to put in 10 centimes or whatever the price was. And it applied to everyone in the family. And they made the rule, and when the jar is full, they decided how they would spend it together as a family. But there were absolutely no exceptions. And those two children were some of the most polite children I had ever met. And so I know making a few good rules, but enforcing them with real practical things really does bear fruit.
Okay, so letter A, respect the rules. Here's a big one for me for letter B. Okay, and it goes back to something I was saying about honor. Respect your mother. I don't know why this seems to be so important, but you know, folks, I teach on this all the time. Respect the mom, respect the mom, respect the mom. And it just seems to be like number one. Number one. Women in general need to feel cherished, and they need to feel the cherishment by the men. They need to feel lifted up. They need to feel supported. Most moms do not feel supported by the husbands. They don't. I don't know about you. I'm not saying this is about the Filipinos. I'm just in general, okay? According to all the books and all the articles I've read, generally speaking, most moms do not feel supported by their husbands in regards to the children. So to me, this was rule number one. Respect your mom. You know, Catherine, when the kids, especially when the kids were little, she would love to get down on the floor and play with the kids and, you know, play balls and, you know, have tea parties together. And even when the kids were super, super little, sometimes they would smack mom, you know, just because they saw it on TV or they saw it at the creche or whatever, they would slap mom. And I would always take their hand and hit them as hard as I could. Said, no, you respect your mommy. Mommy is not your copine.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mommy is mommy. She's on the floor and playing with you, but mommy is mommy. Mommy is not copine. Okay? Now, a lot of moms, if they're not feeling very valued by their husbands, will seek value through their children. That is really wrong. Really, really wrong. Don't do that. Okay? You need to talk with your husband and say, hey, listen, we got to work this out because I'm not feeling valued and I'm not feeling supported. Okay? Don't look for value through your children. You'll mess them up. Okay? They are there to learn how to honor you, not treat you like a copain.
And
Okay?
husbands, here's a little tip. Take the time sometimes when you're out on a date with your wife, where you just have quiet time with her, to ask her and to hear her heart. Honey, do you feel valued in our home? And listen to her answer without reacting, without responding negatively. And take the time to ask, how can I help you feel valued? What can I do differently? What can I say differently to make you feel valued? And that opens up a dialogue that will have great effects in your personal relationship with your husband, but also great effects in your children.
Very good. All right, letter C. We'll finish these up very quickly because we're late. Are we late for dinner? We're good? Oh. Huh, I thought it was already after 7. Okay, great. Oh, man, I can talk for another hour. All right, letter C is respect the property of others. Respect the property of others. Now, again, this goes back to honor. Do you remember in the Garden of Eden? God always seemed to have something that he said, don't touch that. If you do, it'll go bad. And if you don't touch it, then, it'll go good with you. So in the garden, what did God sort of set aside as maybe like his own little private thing and said to Adam, don't touch that. Do you remember what that was? Tree. Tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And throughout history, God has always had something. He would always pick something. Usually it was arbitrary, but God would always pick something. He said, that's mine. Don't touch it. And when in the time of Israel, God said about the tithe. The tithe is mine, 10%. That's mine. Don't touch it. And if you don't touch it and you give it back to me, then I'll bless the rest of the 90%. But if you do touch it, then it'll just go bad for you. You won't have my blessing. It's your choice. So this is what is, I really believe it is important when we're teaching our children that we teach them the respect of property. Mom and dad, there should be certain things that are yours and only yours. They don't belong to your children. And you need to teach them to respect that. In my family growing up, and it was sort of the same way with us raising our children, it was the bedroom. The bedroom is a sacred place for mom and dad. Children don't go in there. And when they were little, yeah, because they didn't understand. But once they got to an age, around 6 or 7 or 8, where they understood, no more. You don't go into mom and dad's room unless you ask. You just don't. It's a sacred place. It's the place where we celebrate our covenant, and it's a sacred place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Some guys, I'm a little bit like this. My tools, it's kind of like, okay, I have my set of tools, and you don't touch them. Now, I'll let you use them, but you have to ask. And you're teaching the respect of property. Listen, I do believe this is important with your children.
Yes.
Okay? Say Joe, he has a football, and Bill has a baseball. Well, the two need to respect that it's the property of each other. So Joe's not going to just start playing with the baseball because it's not his, it's his brother's. It doesn't belong to him. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So teaching children property is so important, okay? In your living room, even when they're little, you have to teach them certain things that children do not touch, period. You don't have to explain why. That's the rule. Just don't touch because it's daddy's property or it's mommy's property. And listen, as little as a year and a half, children can learn. Don't touch. They can. Okay? Before, under a year and a half, maybe not so much, but by a year and a half they can learn. Okay? And so number 4 to finish. And this is probably the most important thing, especially if you're raising children, how to respect yourself. Okay? Respect yourself. Respect yourself. This is so important. Rihanna, when she was little, both of my children were born bald. They had no hair. My 2 girls, bless their heart. Pretty babies, but just absolutely white skin, no hair. And so when it started to grow, Rochelle was a little better, but Rihanna just never took care of her hair. And she would come downstairs in the morning and her hair was literally just, all over the place. And I remember in the morning I would get the brush and I would brush her hair. And I would just tell her how pretty she was. And how special she was. Now the Bible tells us that the hair of a woman is her glory. I said, honey, I'm brushing your glory. Daddy is brushing your glory. But I'm brushing it because you will learn how to take care of it. And you'll learn how to respect the glory that God gave you.
Amen.
Okay? And so teaching children how to respect themselves. If they'll respect themselves, they won't lie, they won't cheat, because they respect themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're not going to go with the crowd because everybody else is doing it, because they respect themselves. And believe me, folks, if they don't learn this at home, they will never, ever learn it anywhere else.
This
Okay.
is especially important for preteens and teenagers as well. Respecting their body and ne pas faire n'importe quoi with their bodies, because the body is a temple of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can start using this language as early as 8 or 9, before puberty, with your children.
Yeah. David and Rihanna, they've been engaged for a year and a half.
Yeah, almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years now. They're getting married in August. They've never kissed. And they've never really had physical touching, because they respect themselves and they respect the Lord. They're very tempted, but they resist the temptation because they learned respect and how to value themselves. A lot of times we put laws, rules are good, but at some point, children, if they don't have internal respect, they're going to find a way to break the rules.
Yeah.
And you can just keep piling on the rules, rule after rule after rule. But if they haven't learned how to respect themselves, they'll never respect the rules and stuff. Okay? So one of the greatest things that you can ever teach a child is how to respect themselves. Okay?
And I would say all of these 4 points come from one central point, which is respect God. When you respect God, you respect the way He makes rules and the rules that you make. You see, obeying God comes out of a heart attitude, and if the heart attitude is respect, that's why we obey Him and follow His rules. When we respect God, we respect our spouses. When we respect God, we understand the principles of His property and how to respect the property of others. And that's the only way, in a true, authentic sense, that any person can respect themselves. When they realize they are the creation of God. And they're respecting what He has made. And that puts the priorities in the right order.
Well, gosh, we gave you guys so much, a ton of stuff. Good thing that Sister Catherine made some great notes. So if later on you guys want to come up and maybe copy down some of the notes and stuff like that, keep them, or take pictures with your smartphones, that's much easier.
It's easier.
But before we close in prayer, does anybody have a question on anything we might have said today? Or maybe you want to ask a question about the 10-headed beast in the book of Revelation, which I know nothing about, but we don't have answers to every question. But any questions at all? Good to see the men back. Men, did you have a good trip? Did you catch the wild boar for the dinner? Great. Okay, let's.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Pastor.
go ahead. Yeah, brother.
In what age you can ask to the children if they feel that they are, you know, they have value?
Mm.
In what age? Do you think in the age of my son, he feel that he value
In our home.
our love for him or something like that, or it's more
Yeah, good question. How old's your son?
8.
Seven.
eight.
Eight.
Yes.
Yeah. You might have to find a way to talk to him that an 8-year-old can understand, but generally, yes. I would say that most girls,
Okay.
by generally 4 or 5, they've developed enough awareness. When children start going to school, their social environment changes drastically, and they become more aware of their value in terms of relationships with others. If it's just mom and dad, it's different. So if a child is kept at home, he's an only child, then the concept of value is a little bit different. But generally, I mean, most of our kids, man, we're putting kids in school like as early as 2 years old, full time. It's a long time to be without your parents, by the way. For us, we counsel people, if you can do it financially, don't send your children to school until they're 6 years old.
Until this.
Yeah. Psychologists will tell you that children are not psychologically developed yet to leave the security of home until they're about 5 or 6. Girls get there quicker than boys, but generally, yeah, don't. So yes, I would definitely say you can start having conversations with your children, boys, as early as 5 or 6 years old, about value. Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
very young children, it's a question of learning that level of communication. It could be something as simple. I remember Pastor Robert always used to do this with his girls. Take them on his lap, look them in the eye, caress their face, and say something like, "Do you know how special you are to your daddy?" Okay. And that's language for small children, but it communicates not just words, but the heart and the spirit of respect. And that way the child can answer, or you can read the non-verbal cues. That's on page 1 when you get a chance to read the notes about how they do feel about themselves. And it's amazing how young children can be deeply impacted by the respect or value they feel that they're receiving from others. I remember once there was a substitute teacher when Rochelle was 5 years old, and she had everybody draw a picture. And for some reason, when she came to Rochelle's picture, she said, "Mais c'est rien du tout, c'est nul ça," and tore up the picture. I could not believe my ears that a teacher would do this. But you can imagine how a 5-year-old child would feel a lack of respect and honor. She was traumatized. So let's be the people in these children's lives that have the opposite effect of what they're getting from the rest of the world.
I'd even go further. If you have little babies, I remember when my girls were still in Catherine's tummy,
Yeah.
and I put my hand on Catherine's tummy and said, "You know what? We're waiting for you. You're not an accident. I wanted you to come, and I'm so looking forward to you coming into this world. You're mine, and I love you already. I haven't seen you yet, but I love you, and you're going to do something so incredibly important in your life." Now, what can that baby understand in the belly? Nothing. Zero. But you know what? There's, like I was saying before, and Catherine said, there's more than just words in communication. There's spirit. And maybe dads, you may not feel like you can talk to your children like that yet. But if you've got it in the heart, they'll feel it. Okay, they'll feel it. You just have to open your heart up big enough, okay, to let your children feel it. Okay? And sometimes you don't have to say it, you just have to look at them. And they know in the look that you're pleased. Okay? Do it. Do it. Even if you feel uncomfortable, dads, you've got to do it. You've got to speak to your kids. Okay? It's so important for them. Okay?
It's really an area in life in general, but especially for kids, that we all want to work on. We want to invest in communicating value. The easiest, the most subtle things can communicate disapproval without the parents even realizing it. So that's why we're going to be intentional, we want to be deliberate, we want to be conscientiously communicating to our loved ones how much we respect, honor, value, and cherish them. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Any other question? That was a good question. Yeah.
As a parent, pastor, yeah, it is good to have expectation to your child or to your children.
Absolutely. Yeah. By expectations, do you mean like having chores and stuff like that?
For example, I want to maybe for example, I want to be my child to be successful for someday, or to be a good boy or to be a good girl. It's okay that you tell your expectation to her or to him, so that you can communicate in that way. Or it's because if you have expectation, the limit of your children is, maybe it's on his mind that if he cannot reach this expectation, maybe your daddy is my daddy is so
Disappointment.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, Glenn, you bring up a really, really good point, and I could probably talk for another hour about it. And that is about expectations in general. It's one of the most difficult things. How do you manage expectations? Because we all have expectations that we put on others, and others have expectations they put on us. But almost never do we talk about it. Now, to answer specifically your question about what your children at home, I think it's really important for children. They don't understand your expectations. They don't. And so you want to be as specific as possible. Okay, for example, if I can think of it, son, I really expect you to get up early in the morning and do your chores before you go to school. That will be very frustrating for your child because he will never know what time to get up. If you just say, I expect you to get up early, he's lost. And he will never know if he actually pleases you or not. Okay? So, what you want to do is be specific. Say, son, tomorrow morning I want you up at 6 a.m. And I want you to study from 6 to 7. We will have breakfast at 7 to 8. Blah, blah, blah. You see what I mean? In other words, you're very specific. So that way the child knows, did I make it or did I not make it? Okay? You have to be very, very, very specific with your children when you try to communicate an expectation. Okay? Now, when it comes to school, my expectation that I communicated was to learn and to love learning. I never said to my children they had to get a certain grade. I don't care about grades. What I care is my children learning, and are they enjoying the process of learning? Okay, do you see the difference?
Yes.
So many of us, we want to see a good note on the report card, but maybe they didn't learn anything. So what does that prove? That proves nothing, So, sometimes they bring in, and the third thing was they would do their best. They would learn, love learning, and do their best. I know do their best, it's not very specific, but I would always ask them when they brought in their report card. Maybe they got 19 out of 20. My girls usually, like in English, we We get 19 out of 20. Anybody, Dad, look, 19 out of 20. I said, honey, you spoke English before you spoke French. My question is, did you do your best? Well, Dad, really not so much. I said, well, then I'm not happy with 19 out of 20. And then one day, when they brought in, 7 out of 20 in math, and I was like, 7 out of 20, dear God. Yeah, but Dad, that was the best note in the class. Everybody else was like 3 out of 20, 4 out of 20. I go, okay, that's a really bad teacher. I said, well, honey, here's the point. Did you do your best? Dad, I really did my best. He said, okay, then that's good for me. Okay, that's good for me. 7 or 1, it's okay. One time I came home from school, and this is an American grading system, and I got, I got 3 C's. We do A, B, C, and F for failure. And I always got A's. And so one day I brought him 3 C's. And I got grounded for 3 weeks during Christmas vacation. No friends, no games. I had to study for the whole Christmas vacation. My brother brought home like 2 F's and a D. And he got no punishment. I said, that's not fair. That's not fair. And they looked at me and said, we know you can do better.
That's experience.
Expectation.
So I thought, oh, okay, you're right, I could. Well, I felt bad for my brother. It was not like, yeah, you're just an idiot, you can't do it. I felt bad for him, but it pushed me. I think it is important, especially with our children, to be as specific as possible, to be fair. Okay? And listen, you don't want your son to be good. You don't. Trust me. You want him to think. Okay? You want him to be autonomous. Okay? Good, bad, it doesn't really mean anything to our children. Okay? It really doesn't. I never said to my girls, I want you to be good. No. If we were going to go and leave our children with a babysitter, we would say, we expect you to obey. We never said we expect you to be good. No, we expect you to obey. When the babysitter says go to bed, you go to bed. And I don't care what time she says go to bed, you obey when she says go to bed. And if you don't, then I will spank you when you wake up. It's as simple as that. There will be no negotiating. Hello.
Yes.
And I don't care if the babysitter says go to bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If that's what she says, you obey. If you disobey, you get spanked. Period. And everybody said amen. It teaches them respect, and discipline and all the things you need to succeed in life. Okay?
Here's another thing that parents have to be careful about. When expectations are not met, it'll be automatic that you feel disappointment.
Yep.
But the child has to know that your disappointment is in his inability to reach your expectations and not in him or her as a person. Do you see the difference?
Amen.
So in your expression of disappointment, you have to be careful to say, talk about the act, the action, or the disobedience, or the word, or the lack of what was necessary, not who that child is. Reinforce the value of the child. You are clever, you are smart, you are a hard worker, you are a good learner. And reinforce the qualities of the child that speak of his value. And communicate your disappointment only about the facts where your expectations were not met. Does that make sense?
Amen.
Good questions.
Pastor,
Yeah.
let's say they don't want to go to the school. Children.
Wow.
Very hard.
They're bored.
They don't want to go to school at all.
Yeah, no.
Okay. How old are they?
Teresa.
13. Okay. Well, then that's a problem. Somebody who's 13 years old and doesn't want to go to school, it's because they've had a bad experience at school. And so, yeah, maybe we could talk about it privately, but generally, if your child is really against going to school, they've had a very, very bad experience, they've been traumatized, and, you know, there could be a bully at school, maybe they feel stupid, for a 13-year-old, their whole world is so crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what you were like when you were 13?
Yeah.
Well, it's worse now, okay? The world is so crazy, and I don't know how anybody today can be 13 and still stay alive. It's a crazy,
They
crazy
don't want to
world.
accept the explanation.
They don't want to explain?
They don't want to accept.
Explanation.
Let's say I explain to go to the school, blah blah blah. They don't want to accept.
They don't want to accept it?
Yes. They don't want to listen. But
I would
it's good in the school when they learn. But you know, sometimes down, sometimes
Okay.
up and down.
Um,
Sometimes good if depends the subject.
yeah.
If depends the teacher maybe.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know we had a lot more trouble with Rochelle in school than with Rayana.
Because now yes, and now I experience to my son.
Okay.
Because last year it's okay. But first semester, second semester Sabah. But later Moya.
Yeah. Have you talked to his teacher?
Yes, but
Listen, I would
and
suggest,
then they told me take out all the gadgets, but you know.
okay. Yeah, I would, this is your son or your daughter? Your son. Yeah, you need to get him help. Okay, either a counselor at school, or even a psychologist.